Good morning, everyone. Boker Tov. Someone once said, just because I'm paranoid doesn't mean that everyone's not out to get me. This week's Torah portion tells the story of Balak, who is the king of Moab. And he sees everything that God did for Israel and the Jewish people and how they defeated the Amorites. And therefore he feared the Jewish people. And he said, we need to deal with the Jewish nation before they consume us the way an ox licks the field and consumes all of the grass. And so he mobilizes the people of Midian and Moab to go attack the Jewish people by hiring Bilam to curse the Jewish nation, but God puts blessings into the mouth of Bilam. But here's the irony. The irony of the story is that really Balak had nothing to fear, because the end of last week's Torah portion tells of the war between Israel and the Amorites, and how God delivered the Amorites into the hands of the Jewish nation. But the Torah tells us that Moses sent a message to Sichon, the king of the Amorites, saying, we want peace with you, we want coexistence, we just want to travel through your land peacefully. And he says, we will not drink of your waters, we will not go into your fields, we will not take from your vineyards, we just want safe, peaceful passage. But it's only when the king Sichon of the Amorites says no, and he goes out to attack the Jews, that the Jews are forced to fight in self-defense and conquer the land. And so therefore Balak had nothing to fear, because he should have seen that the Jewish people seek peace with their neighbors, not war. But that's the nature of fear. The nature of fear is that it takes control of a person, and therefore they become paranoid, and they see things that are imaginary, and they make things up in their mind. And that's why the name of the Torah portion is Balak, but the first word is Vayar. He saw. You know where he saw this? In his mind. As someone once said, that the word fear, F-E-A-R, is an acronym for false evidence appearing real. And this is true not only in the Torah portion, but it's true in our personal lives. Sometimes we're gripped with anxiety and fear and insecurity, but it's from our worst imagination, where we imagine things going wrong that never come to pass. But it's our mindset that causes us to become fearful, not the reality. It's fascinating to see the way current events literally mirrors this week's Torah portion. It was incredible news this week that 5 sheikhs from Hebron, which is the largest Palestinian neighborhood in entire Judea and Samaria, these 5 sheikhs represent over 200,000 Palestinians, wrote a letter to the Prime Minister of Israel saying, we want peaceful coexistence with you. We want to join the Abraham Accords, which is fascinating because Abraham lived in Hebron and his burial place is in Hebron, and they want to join the Abraham Accords. And in their letter they say that the Palestinian Authority has brought nothing but corruption and a culture of death and terrorism to us, and has ruined our lives. And we want to live with Israel so we could have prosperity, economic freedom, and we want to fully recognize Israel and denounce the Palestinian Authority. And here you see this lie that was promoted for over 30 years, starting with Arafat and the PLO and the Oslo Accords, that Israel's the enemy, and that Israel seeks the destruction of the Palestinians, and therefore we need a 2-state solution. We need to be separated from them because, God forbid, Israel wants to harm us, occupy us. And now they're saying it was a big lie. It instilled fear in the people that wasn't in reality. And they're not looking for a 2-state solution. They're just looking for peaceful coexistence. That's the message of this week's Torah portion. Today is the 12th day of Tammuz on the Hebrew calendar. It is the day that the father-in-law of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Joseph Schneerson, was born, and also the day that he was freed from Soviet prison after he was sentenced to death. And he survived and came to America in 1940 and rebuilt the Chabad movement from Crown Heights, 770 Eastern Parkway, into a worldwide movement. And here was a man, a rabbi, who had no fear whatsoever. He faced down Soviet leader Joseph Stalin. Imagine, Joseph Schneerson against Joseph Stalin. And who won? Joseph Stalin is gone. Communism has collapsed. But Joseph Schneerson, Rabbi Joseph Schneerson, lives on today through his thousands and thousands of followers in Judaism, not just around the world, but in the former Soviet Union. after the collapse of communism, when all of his network of underground schools and synagogues and mikvaot all came back to life in the 90s and beyond. And this is the message when we live with courage, when we live with faith. Fear is an absence of God. You see, because as the quote from FDR says, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. The truth is, if I could paraphrase, there's nothing to fear but Hashem himself. And therefore, when you live with faith, you don't have fear, you have trust. You don't see paranoia, you see positive outcomes. And my favorite story about Rabbi Joseph Schneerson was when he was being interrogated by the KGB during his arrest. They wanted him to disclose his underground network of rabbis and schools and mikvaot and Jewish institutions that he had, to arrest the other rabbis and close down these institutions, and he refused to reveal their identity or their locations. And so one of the KGB officers walked over to Rabbi Schneerson, pulled out his pistol, pressed it firmly against his temple, and said, "Rabbi, you see this little toy? It has made many people speak before." And Rabbi Joseph Schneerson looked up at the KGB officer without even blinking, and he said, "That toy could only scare someone who has one world and two gods. But I have one God and two worlds, and that little toy doesn't scare me." The KGB officer put down his pistol, and Rabbi Schneerson went on to tell the story and to continue his mission to build Judaism worldwide. That's the faith and the courage we all need that the Rebbe gave us. Last night I had the privilege of praying with Dini at the grave of the Rebbe, who was buried right alongside his father-in-law, Rabbi Joseph Schneerson. May their merit and their memory be a blessing and a source of inspiration for all of us to live with courage and faith. Have a wonderful day.